When you're looking at a high-end NAS like the NIMO Secure AI 5 Bay, the first question is usually, do I really need all this tech, or am I just paying for hype? I get that hesitation a lot, especially when the price tag pushes you into the same range as a small server rack. In the next few minutes I'm going to walk through what the machine actually does in a day-to-day environment, where the money is really going, and which kind of buyer will feel the value versus who would be better off with a simpler solution. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with the core promise: a private cloud that runs AI workloads on-premises, never sending your files to a public provider. That sounds impressive, but the practical impact comes down to two things: data sovereignty and automation. The 24/7 autonomous digital butler isn't just a marketing line, it's an always-on service layer that watches the drives, indexes new content, and triggers file-level actions without you having to open a web console every hour. In my test setup, I dropped a batch of raw video footage into the first bay, and within minutes the butler had created a transcoded proxy version, updated the metadata in the unified knowledge base, and flagged any duplicate clips. For anyone who spends hours manually moving files around after a shoot, that automation translates into real time saved. The hardware under the hood is the AMD Strix Halo 395, a next-gen processor that brings a desktop-class GPU into a NAS chassis. That matters when you start using the Edge Cloud hybrid inference feature. I ran a small TensorFlow model for image tagging on a folder of family photos. Because the inference runs locally, the tags appeared almost instantly, and none of the images ever left my network. In a small creative studio, that could mean you can label assets, run facial blur filters, or even generate quick captions without uploading anything to a third-party service. The trade-off is that the system draws a noticeable amount of power, roughly 120 watts at idle and closer to 250 watts under load, so you'll see a higher electricity bill compared with a basic NAS that only does storage. Speaking of storage, the 5 bays accept standard 2.5 or 3.5-inch SATA drives, and the enclosure supports hot swap, so you can scale capacity without downtime. The real kicker is the unified private RAG knowledge base. In practice, that means the server builds a searchable index of the contents across all drives, enriched with the AI tags, and you can query it via a simple web UI or an API. For a law firm that needs to retrieve specific documents quickly, or a media team that wants to locate all clips with a particular actor, that searchable layer is a concrete productivity boost. It's not just a list of file names, it's a contextual map built by the AI engine. Now, let's talk about who will actually benefit from these features. If you run a small to medium-sized business that handles sensitive client data, think legal files, medical records, or proprietary designs, the Zero Trust private data sovereignty model is a solid safety net. Because everything stays inside your own network, you avoid the compliance headaches that come with public cloud providers. The system also offers granular access controls, so you can give a freelance designer read-only access to a specific project folder while keeping the rest of the drive locked down. On the other side of the spectrum, a power user who runs a home media server, backs up personal photos, and occasionally streams movies probably won't tap into the AI inference or the private knowledge base enough to justify the expense. For that use case, a more modest 2-bay NAS would deliver the same storage capacity with a fraction of the cost and power draw. One practical strength that shows up in everyday use is the dual USB 4 ports. They're not just fast, they're bidirectional, meaning you can connect a high-speed external SSD for a quick data dump, and the NAS will automatically mirror that data to the internal bays while keeping the external drive ready for the next intake. In a scenario where you're shooting on location with a portable SSD, you can dock the drive, let the NIMO handle the heavy lifting, and walk away without worrying about manual copying. The LPDDR5X memory ensures that the indexing and AI inference stay snappy, even as the drive count climbs into the high terabytes. Of course, there are downsides you need to factor in. The first is the learning curve. The web interface is clean, but configuring the digital butler's automation rules, setting up the RAG knowledge base, and tweaking the Zero Trust policies require a level of comfort with networking and server concepts. If you're not willing to spend a few evenings reading the manual or watching tutorials, you might end up with a machine that sits idle. Second, the price point is steep for a NAS that could be built with off-the-shelf components. You're essentially paying for the integrated AI stack, the zero-trust software suite, and the polished UI. For businesses that already have an on-premises server and a